Here, I got to turn on my other camera here for YouTube. So we're getting ready to start a live radio interview. And anyway, I just want to say tonight, guys, I come across really passionate. I'm a little bit angry at the Watchtower, and I'm a little bit worried about the direction in which the Watchtower is going. I mean, they are advancing from bad to worse. They are getting more narcissistic. They are getting more dangerous. And so, I don't take that lightly. And, Angela's my, counterbalance. She tells me I'm going to, explode if I don't be careful. But, one thing I'm not going to go down, I'm not going to go down not having a voice. I'm not going to go down and say I didn't do a damn thing. And I'll tell you why. My mother died in there. My dad died in there. My other brothers are messed up in there. They're getting worse. And I'm going to speak it like it is. I'm going to say it like it is. I have to. It's in my soul. It's in my heart. I don't know no other way to speak. So, if I sound intense, it's really passion, and I really am coming from the heart, and I want to talk to your heart. And I know most of us on here have left, the Watchtower. But for those listening, that's why I'm so passionate. But anyway, tonight, Angela, if you wouldn't mind introducing our guest tonight.
You sure will. Okay, tonight our guest is Leanne Poley of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a born-in witness. Leanne became an unbaptized publisher at age 13. She was soon after told she was rebellious, and her position as a publisher was revoked. She then was forced to live with her dad and then her brother, and I think that went back and forth. Leanne really believed it was the truth until 2020, and then saw the light and woke up after having done a ton of research and study. And so in February of 2021, she was totally out. She loves music, she writes music, and is in a band where she sings and plays guitar. She lives as a single mom with her 2 daughters and son in Alberta, Canada, as we said. She has a YouTube channel called L.A., Los Angeles, but it's Leanne Poley, Poley, 1980. So if you want to check out what she's been up to, you can go there. We're so glad to have Leanne on our show tonight, and we want to welcome Leanne. Are you there, Leanne?
Hi, I'm here, actually.
Great,
That was a
yay.
great introduction. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
You bet.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And I'm really, I got to tell you this, Leanne. I'm really proud of you, and so is Angela. I can't believe, this is what I'm having a hard time believing, is so many that come out later. Like you've come out 2020, right?
21.
21?
February.
And there was another lady the other day that came out this late, and you guys are landing on your feet. I'm amazed. And
unless you guys are faking us out, because really, it takes so many people that we've seen over the years that they just really struggle to get back on their feet, and they flounder so badly. But man, it just seems like lately people coming out are just, I don't know, they're fully aware and fully grounded, and I don't understand how that could be.
Clear, you're so clear.
So clear, yeah.
But anyway,
We're glad.
yeah, thank you. So I guess, Leanne, if you want to start out, just, I guess, tell us how it all started, how you got into this thing, and, and just kind of go along. Just talk from your heart, and we'll interject here and there, or anybody else that wants to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So, I was born in second generation. My mom was introduced to the religion years before I was born. My dad didn't really take to it, and it led to their splitting up. It had a lot to do with them splitting up when I was 2. So predominantly, my mom raised us. There was my brother and sister. They were older. My sister took to it right away, got baptized soon after. My mom got baptized. My brother, however, didn't take to it from the beginning. As soon as he stepped foot in a Kingdom Hall, he had horrible intuition and was very sick from it.
Wow.
And that went away. So he had this intuition early on, and he was looked at as a problematic child, you know. Whereas I just took to it. I was born and raised into it, so I never doubted the doctrine, even when I was out, even after I left. So I've been mentally in my whole life up until recently.
Wow.
And yeah, I just, you know, when I was out and I left, I spent a lot of years just having this constant disconnect, because there was this middle ground where I didn't want to go back to the organization. I didn't even want to go back home. But I didn't fit into this world that I was thrown into that I believed was run by Satan. And, you know, I never pursued schooling or any of the dreams I had, because that was essentially hijacked. You know, that was stunted. So I couldn't progress in that world. So I just pretty much lived on the edge. But the 13 years that I grew up and I was in, I really truly believed it in my heart of hearts. I never doubted it for a second. And I was happy being in the so-called truth. You know, even celebrating the holidays, that didn't bother me. I almost took pride in the fact that I was separate that way. You know, that we were blessed with having the truth and that we were special. And it's almost like a superiority complex that you're given. And only recently did I realize the narcissism that's taught to people, you know, with how they separate themselves. They see themselves as better and special, and that's how I felt. But as soon as I started to question things, as soon as I started feeling cognitive dissonance at the age of 12, and this was soon after I became a publisher. In fact, 2 or 3 months after I became a publisher, I was announced as no longer a publisher. And it was an overnight, intense change that I went through. And looking back now...
Why did that happen? Leanne? I missed it. Why? How you were a publisher, and then all of a sudden it was announced you weren't a publisher? Did I miss something?
No, you got that right, Dan, but we're curious what it was that flipped the switch for you. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And this is something I've been struggling with, and even people who were close to me, even my dad asked this years later, what was it that happened to you when you were 13 that just made you rebel and, you know, reject everything? It really started with getting at a certain age where critical thinking starts to emerge. I felt that something was wrong, and I rejected the idea of not going out and playing with my friends, because at that point, you know, you want to have more freedom. You want to go out and be a normal kid. The music I was listening to, there was some resistance there. I started to get this resistance when I was becoming the person that I was becoming naturally. It didn't fit into Watchtower standards. And so my mom said at one point that, you know, if you don't want to go to the meetings, then this is the house rule. So if you don't want to go to meetings, then you just can't be here. So at 13, I was removed and thrown out, I guess you could say. And it was heartbreaking for them when I was announced as no longer a publisher. But it had nothing to do with the preaching work. I was fine with that. It's just my memory doesn't serve me when it comes to what happened, as far as I think it was just one thing that led to another, and I just noticed within my surroundings that I could not be myself.
That's interesting. That's so interesting, Leanne, because 13 years old. I mean, 13. I mean, that is so young to start thinking for yourself. I mean, talk about my growth on it. I was 40 when I started thinking, you know, and you were 13.
Yeah, but you know, Dan, Well, 13 is that age when you start to bloom. I mean, your body is starting to change, and you're starting to become. I don't know. You're starting to have these feelings that you like boys, and all these feel you want to be with your friends. You don't want to be with your parents. You just kind of start
At
wanting
13?
Oh gosh, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you start getting your hormones.
Okay.
So your hormones, I feel, has a lot to do with.
Notice what she said at 13. Her mom is basically kicking her out of the house. At 13 years old, you're basically given a choice. If you're not going to live by our standards, you got to leave. At 13.
I know it.
That just rocks me.
And not
Yeah.
baptized. Not baptized. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is all too common, and I never realized how common it was until after I left, and I would hear all these stories. It's pretty much their protocol, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the child doesn't want to obey and be in alignment with the whole regiment, they're shunned, they're marked, and especially if they're baptized and then disfellowshipped.
And you were not baptized. That's the thing, and that's the thing. Dan and I have been talking about this week a lot about these people that are baptized at a very young age, and they have no idea that when right around the corner when they get into their teen years, which is the years that you rebel. All teenagers rebel. They just do. I always said this: if teenagers don't rebel, and yes, it is, because if they didn't, you know what? They would never ever leave mom's home. As God made it that way, I really do feel that it makes us want to get out and move on our own and get married and have kids, and it's all part of it. And so they tell you that, if you get baptized, you cannot ever, 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 never break our rules, disobey, argue, complain, get in trouble, have sex, hold hands, kiss, smoke, whatever. You can't try anything, or you will be marked and put out. And I don't know. It's sick, and I think these poor teenagers, they have no idea what
Even
they're.
the Amish let their teens have a year.
Oh, is that right? I have no idea of that.
Wow.
Yeah, they do. Even as strict as they are, they recognize the teen transformation that happens naturally.
Isn't that something?
That's something.
Yeah, Watchtower takes it to the next level for sure. And as far as I would have easily have gotten baptized. Just all I needed was a nudge or some reminders. It wasn't really encouraged too much.
Thank God.
Actually, from my mom's side. But if say if I had an elder for a dad or something like that, most likely I would have got baptized. But yeah, I just started developing.
Can I butt in?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was an elder for 30 years.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
I raised, yes, I called earlier, and I raised my son and my daughter. I raised them both as Jehovah's Witnesses. And my son went to school, my daughter went to school. So really, you make your life what you want it to be. My son was baptized at a very young age, 12. But he went to college. My daughter was baptized at a very young age also. And she went to college and made her life nobody to blame. I was baptized in 1968.
How old were you?
So, I've been around I've seen a lot of changes in the organization. And I've been through all the changes. And we could talk about this and talk about that, but the thing is that you have to come out and you have to make love for yourself.
Yes.
I mean, we were always programmed when I was baptized in 68, March 22nd, 1968, in Tucson, Arizona, Circuit Assembly. And the reason that I got baptized was because the end was already here. And that's what the circuit servers were preaching back then.
Gotcha.
And I'm 66 now. And I served 30 years as an elder.
I got a question for you.
And
What was your name? What was your name?
Hector Santiago.
Hector. What we'd like to do, you've got a great story. Do you think, maybe you could do a show with us because we got to finish this show. But you got some great input and stuff like that. But I'd like to do a show with you, so you can contact me through Facebook, Life After Religion. And you sound like you really got. I mean, a 30-year elder would really make a great show. But we want to keep Leanne going here, okay?
Let me tell you, I got stories to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I sympathize with this young lady. But my daughter and my son, they got their college education, and they're both doing great. My son resigned as an elder like 2 years ago because he saw all the BS.
Yes.
My daughter is not. She's got her 2 kids. She was married to an elder, and 8 months ago, we found out that he was cheating on her for 3 years.
Can we save this for your show, Hector? This is supposed to be about Leanne tonight. We don't mind you commenting. Well, tonight we're. Go ahead.
So I thought I had seen it all until my wife's husband, which has been serving as an elder for a long time, and their parents are regular pioneers, and I thought I had seen it all, and guess what? And I got more horror stories if y'all want to hear.
Not right now, Hector. We don't. I'm sorry. We want to save that for your show.
We don't have time.
Yeah.
We don't have time.
No, it's actually
Next show.
Next show. See, right now we're interviewing someone. We're interviewing. Sorry, who are we interviewing? Leanne Poley. And so we like to just find out all about her life. So if you want to comment about her life or something that she said, that's great. But it's not supposed to be about anyone's life in particular. This is specifically for our guest tonight. So
thank you for your comments.
And quite honestly, a lot of the people that I'm listening to, they need to be listened to, because right now the elders in the congregations, they don't have the faintest ideas of what's going on.
No,
right.
You're right.
They're here for a title and no idea what's going on inside the personal lives of people.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Hector. Go ahead, Leanne.
Hey, no problem. We're here.
You got it. Thank you.
I'm going to continue listening, and thank you very much
Thank
for the time.
You got it. Anytime.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night.
We're doing a show together. Okay. Go ahead, Leanne. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll definitely phone in and be asking questions when he does his show. And
All right.
I wanted to know when he left. Interesting.
Yeah, and it isn't often you get a 30-year man in there. That's incredible.
I know. So 68, 78, 98, 2008 he got out. He said 30 years. So 2008. That's when.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So where were we here?
So,
Your mom's kicking you out.
with baptism and and the rebelliousness that started rapidly at that age, but I don't see it as rebellion. I was made to think that I was essentially a rebellious kid, a bad kid. But the way I see it now, it's more like repelling, like two magnets. Trying to put two magnets together, because that environment was actually toxic, and I didn't know it at the time. And I was rejecting it. And any normal kid, who's going through that process of those changes, puberty, and everything else, is going to reject the idea of not being a normal kid.
Exactly.
And even a lot of these kids stay in with all that depression, and that's also really sad. But
yes.
I did have a love for the so-called truth. I really did. I believed it 100%. And then at the age of 12, things just shifted. And, I could say now that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
What did you like about it? What did you like? What did you believe? What really kind of turned you on in there that you really loved? Was it End Tomorrow? Was it God's Name? Was it just everything about it? The door to door? I'm just curious myself.
The memorial she said she liked.
I enjoyed the preaching work. I enjoyed the book studies, especially just that interactive environment, being able to comment. I loved commenting, even studying. enjoyed it. I believed in it, underlining the answers, sitting with my friends at the meeting. Usually we'd be acting up and laughing, and I'd be getting pinched by my mom and, sometimes taken into the back, right? Because back then, parents weren't ashamed of doing that, and it was encouraged also, the corporal punishment kind of stuff. But other than that, I wasn't abused. I had a great childhood. I was a happy kid. We went on trips a lot. I didn't feel like I was neglected. I just felt that I was so lucky to be a part of this religion, that was the truth. I was looking forward to the paradise and rolling around with the pandas and what have you. It all seemed real to me, so I took pleasure in that hope of that future that I believed in. The Bible book stories, having my mom read those to me on a daily basis. A lot of kids got traumatized from it and set them off, and kids would get rubbed the wrong way and feel fear from seeing those pictures. But I was enthralled. I just loved those stories. I loved the pictures, and I loved the time spent with my mom just going over those stories. So there wasn't much that I didn't like about it, except for having to sit there at the meetings. That was hard. It was a challenge, but I didn't resent being there.
Gotcha.
So when this whole process happened overnight, where I suddenly resented everything. I resented being at home, going to school, being at the Kingdom Hall. It was like my soul was saying, no.
Wow.
Can't do it anymore.
Wow.
And it's really hard to put my finger on it. Exactly.
You know what?
Led to that, yeah, go ahead.
You know what I think? I think that your dad not being a witness and your brother rebelling strongly against it and having revulsion towards it in this kind of funny, kind of weird, strange, subconscious way, I feel like it affected you. You know what I mean? And it's probably a really big blessing.
Yeah, he went through a hard time with my mom, and I never went through that as a kid. So maybe I felt good about being spared that way, but it just happened down the road. It just happened years later.
Yep.
The same thing with me as it did with my brother.
So now,
And he got kicked out in an early years, yeah.
so you got kicked out. Now there's a point where you decided to come back, right? I mean, did you actually leave your mom's house? Like, actually were kicked out and she was like, I'm glad you're gone kind of thing?
Yeah, she had me stay with my dad, and then with my brother, and I was doing homeschooling, and things were going okay, but, it just wasn't the environment that my mom would have wanted me in, if she so badly wanted me to, believe in the religion and come back, but she just couldn't handle me.
Gotcha.
And her excuse was that I was this problem child. She already went through enough with my brother, and it's somewhat encouraged. But I found this out later that in the Shepherding the Flock book, there's some direction there about looking after your children, and the fact that you can actually get disfellowshipped for not looking after your children who are minors. And I think kicking them out sort of qualifies as going against that counsel,
Yes. It almost seems like, and I'm telling you, I'm going to get some legislation. I'm going to really work on this. But I think baptism as a minor should come with a warning. You know what I mean? The kids need to say, hey, if you get baptized, now, at any time after that, if you disagree, you know, your parents are maybe going to kick you out, or, you know, you're going to be cut off from the family. These kids don't know that when they're going in, because when you're coming in, you're getting praised. You're getting told you're wonderful and you're Mr. Superman, you know. But once you're in, and like you said, you hit your age and you have a crisis of conscience, which is what happened to you. Something happened. I don't like this anymore. I feel cramped, or whatever happened, or you got pissed, you know, something.
To me, Dan, it's just as simple as the basic things that teenagers do, which is, again, kissing, hugging, going to the movies with your worldly friends, smoking with somebody. I mean, you know, the basics,
Yeah.
you know, that you do. Get in trouble with sex.
The things that I was sneaking out and doing were basically things that normal kids were allowed to do.
Right.
And then I'd get in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, just one thing led to another. But, yeah, you know, all in all, I never did go back. I never went back home after that. There was a short period where I tried to make it work, and by that time I was pretty far gone and not wanting to be a part of my family. My mom had remarried, and he was an elder, and there was this situation where I just had gotten out of serving time. So, you know, I went off the rails, let's just say, like at an early age.
Yep.
But I was serving some time, and I got out, and I had this new family living with my mom. My mom had remarried. There was two other kids. There were Jehovah's Witnesses baptized, and here's me. So that didn't last long, and I just ended up leaving home because I couldn't be a part of it. It wasn't going to work, even if I tried.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is, after I left, I regretted leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I only understand now, after fully waking up, that it was the proper thing. There's no way I could have stayed. There's no way. Unless I pretended to be something I'm not. And that would have hurt my soul. And it's just like anybody else who stays in, you know, who doesn't believe it, and they're fearful, or they're afraid of the consequences, because they're extreme consequences of getting out. You lose your whole support network, family, friends. That's a scary thing.
Sure
and
is.
It's understandable if people stay in.
Do you think that they would have really accepted you back, or did you feel like she's the troubled one, you know? Did you feel that when you went back, like your mom was kind of vocal, or were they really inviting you back to like a celebration, we're glad you're back, or did you feel like they were all do-gooders and they were all doing good and you were the black sheep? Were you feeling bad, or were they making you feel bad, or what was it like?
I suppose it was almost like a honeymoon period where it's like, oh, I have a new brother and sister, you know, they're around the same age, and, you know, I was kind of struggling at first to adjust, but I was trying to make it work. They were trying to make it work, and, you know, at first it did, but I still had that crisis of conscience, like you said. I couldn't accept the reality that I was being forced into this religion, because it's never an option. When you're a child, it's not an option.
Yeah.
You're not given that option. But baptism, yeah, oh sure, go right ahead. You know, you're too young to drive a car, you're too young to drink, you're too young to have sex. But as far as you know, committing yourself to this lifelong vow, you know, I call it trap ties. I learned that from my brother.
Okay, we're gonna break. Okay,
Trap-ties.
I gotta say that. Trap ties. Trap ties. This is, we want to brand this on the 6 screens. I was trap-sized.
Nice.
So how old were you when you were trap-tized? No. How old were you at that point when you...
She never got trap-ties.
Just use that from now on. Every
Yeah.
time you're
So
using the word baptized.
yeah,
I love
how
it.
old were you when you moved in with your mom again after, you know, getting in that trouble and stuff? Were you 14 then, or
So that was around 14, 15. There was that little trial period, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ended
So you just
And
packed
not
up your
going back.
bags and went to your
Oh,
brother's?
yeah. I started a new year in school, and I liked the school. I didn't mind going to school, but there was this little option of running away with this friend of mine. Hey, let's go to Vancouver. Leave. And that's what I decided to do. And we were just kind of like these street kids. That's just how I lived for a while.
Wow.
But, the truth was ingrained in me, and I always believed it deep down.
What were they? I got a question for you. You were in there late, 2000, like 20, And so here's my question. I'm trying to keep up with the lies in there, in the organization, because we waited in 75. My dad waited for the end to come. Then I was heavily in ministerial servant in the generation prophecy, 70 or 80 years from 1914, the end's going to come. And then I got out, and then it went into the overlapping generation, where the elders were going to be princes, and they were going to merge with the faithful few that's left from 1914, and there was this overlapping, and that they were going to take us in to the paradise. And so I'm wondering, I don't know why I haven't heard, but was there another prophecy after that, or are they? I know they're doing them on the low profile. I know they're like when the generation prophecy come, nobody said nothing except me, and I got put on reproof. Yeah, they didn't want to talk about it. Then the overlapping, of course, that never existed. We just imagined it. I just imagined the generation prophecy. But the question is now is, what's the prophecy now? That's what I guess I'm asking. What are they talking about now in there?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, they're constantly tweaking the doctrine, right? So they're changing it, they're tweaking it, and then, like you said, years from now, 20, 30 years from now, they'll be saying, that was just a group of Jehovah's Witnesses, the odd person here and there that were misled, and we released some information, and, they'll shift the blame when it comes to the overlapping generations, if there's still, in fact, a religion intact 20, 30 years from now. I don't know. I think they're dismantling. I think the whole narrative is falling apart. People are waking up left and right, but they're trying to hold it together. But as far as false prophecies, there was a change in the whole belief with the governing body. So they're going to be, taken up into heaven like a rapture, but of course they won't use the word rapture, to serve with Jesus before Armageddon comes. And they'll be ruling with him and slaughtering all the non-Jehovah's Witnesses when the time comes. And they're saying, don't worry, we'll be up there in heaven, supporting you, looking down and helping, as if the witnesses, they just thrive, their whole life revolves around the dictation or the dictatorial, commands that the governing body gives. It's not Jehovah that they're serving.
I just have to laugh. I mean, I'm just sitting here shaking my head because, these narcissists, I found a new word today. It's called supremacist, religious supremacist.
Supremacy.
Supremacy. Check this out. They never, ever want to give up their rule. They want to keep everybody children. Don't worry, we're going to vaporize and we're going to go to heaven, but we're still going to rule. Just think about the nutcase. I mean, can you imagine the Pope, saying something like that, saying, don't worry, when I'm gone, I'm going to be up there and I'm still going to have you on the feeder, on the breast. I mean, narcissists never give it up. They want to rule after they're dead.
Yep.
My God.
Yep. And, it could be this plan that they have to abandon ship.
Yes.
Disappear, go to a private island with their money bags in hand from all the real estate investments and pharmaceuticals, and we're going to be on that and talking about that. But yeah, they're very corrupt, and for some reason they have the sheep in line as far as that goes. They don't question anything. And they don't question the fact that they're told not to question anything.
Wow.
So many examples that they've really stepped up their game with that.
With telling them not to question them, you mean?
Sorry?
You mean the organization, when you say they've stepped up their game, they're really cracking down on, you need to listen to us. I know when I heard Stephen Lett, say, you better listen to us. And I said on Rick's show today, could you imagine the Pope saying that? You better listen to me, like your life depends on it, because it does. That
It does. Yeah.
that's extreme.
That's
That's
another
extreme supremacist. I mean, that's as extreme as I have ever heard. And Toni Morris saying, won't you be glad when they're all dead? What preacher today would go on television, other than a psychopath, and say, and light a match, Toni Morris, blow it out in front of an audience? Could you imagine new people watching that? Won't you be glad when they're all dead? Part of those family members that left, part of those of your own family that have said something against us, that don't agree with us. Won't you be glad when they're all dead? In fact, let me light a match and blow it out. I mean, if somebody new was watching on that, go ahead.
Wasn't it eerie how everyone was laughing in unison after he did that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It was
That's the
sick.
idea of billions of people dying.
And their own
Innocent
children.
people.
Their own children. How about that one? Because who are they talking about? They're talking about anyone who doesn't want to follow Jehovah. So their own children have been thrown out, the ex-witnesses, their own children. And they're laughing and glad and clapping because that's going to be so. I mean, that's just beyond sick,
Yeah, and that's something I could never accept. Especially years later when I would start thinking about these things and asking questions, children, because their parents decide to no longer be Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to die at Armageddon. That never sat well with me, and even just people dying because they didn't choose to be in a certain denomination of religion. I couldn't accept that either. These are doubts that I had when I came back and I was studying and I was asking these questions, and I was shut down most of the time.
Well,
When I
Leanne,
had doubts and I expressed them.
I mean, you loved your dad. You loved your dad, I would suppose. I suppose it would bother you that, that your mom and the church looked at your dad like he was not going to make it. I mean, I bet that would have been bothersome because you thought he was a good man, probably, right? Your brother too.
Oh, I did. I looked up to him. He would visit once in a while, and I just accepted that situation as what it was. My mom never really ran him into the ground, or there was just this kind of neutral, I looked forward to seeing him. It was the odd time, but he was never really supportive. But when my mom first started studying, get this, there was a circuit overseer coming over for supper, and he finally gave in and said, you know what, as long as this makes you happy, because he was opposed to it at first. And he rejected the witnesses. He said for them to leave. He didn't want his wife studying with these people. And he finally just gave in because my mom was happy. She was making friends at the Kingdom Hall, and he eventually just accepted it because he loved her. But this circuit overseer came in and set him aside and said, well, mixed marriages don't work. You know that, right? And he goes, oh, well, because my mom is Mohawk Indian, Native, and he goes, I have Native in me. I'm part Mixed. So he thought they were talking about race.
Oh.
What he was referring to was, him not being in the religion. And they just had this audacity. And my dad got so infuriated. He was just turned off to the idea that much more of ever joining that religion. Like, here's these two guys, they come into his house and say, this is the way you should live. Otherwise, your marriage isn't going to work. So.
Wow.
And that's the thing. I didn't realize that led to their eventual split because she pretty much you're giving up on so much.
But,
You know,
but
so-
Leanne, you know how you said that, it bothered you that different people have different religions and, good people or whatever, that they're going to be, they're going to be killed. They're going to be genocided. And I was just trying to say that your dad, you would have had to think and had thoughts of, well, that means my brother is not going to make it and my dad's not going to make it. And I would think that might bother you. I'm just throwing it out there because that's like a very much in your face, your family, so that would have been something on your mind, I would think, that wouldn't set right with you.
Yeah, just the whole idea, I never pondered about it too much because I didn't want to think about those things.
Yeah.
And, I would relate examples, even in the last few years, just meeting people who happen to be Christian and they live such good lives. They're happy, they're good parents, just good people all around. And the thought of them dying because they don't study Watchtower and go to meetings, and I just could never accept that.
Yeah.
Deep down, I knew it was wrong. And the whole shunning process.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting to me? I mean, I'm just listening to this, and I'm thinking about it, right? I'm thinking about what church grooms you to have your kids killed? You go to jw.org, you watch a boy calling his mother. She doesn't answer the phone. Jehovah's will be done. The kid calls, hangs up again. He needs to be punished. What freaking church teaches people to abandon their children? When I went to the assembly, I remember there was this one scene where this guy got pierced through because he was sleeping with a Moabite woman, and he got seduced by her, right? And the mother said, the mother of the child, think about this, grooming, Jehovah's will be done. Think about this, guys. People, the witnesses, the people, the followers, when Tony Morris said, won't you be glad when they're all dead? The people were so groomed, they applauded. Where on earth do you go to a church where they're grooming you to accept your children's death? This is like blowing my mind.
And like she said, she heard them laughing.
Yeah.
It's just.
Hey, Dan?
Yes.
Hey, Dan, this is Michael.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, buddy. I'm going through the same thing with my family. Just because I won't follow Watchtower doctrine of 8 men up in New York. It's a sad situation. I sympathize with your story. I really do.
What's happening? Are they tearing you down? Are they beating you up? I just curious.
I knew as soon as my wife went back to the meetings, Dan, that they would corner her. They told her I'm gangrene and mentally diseased, and that she needs to get away from me, and that my children are in danger spiritually, and pretty much blackballed me. It's a cult. Jesus wouldn't treat anybody the way that we all have been treated. And,
That's right.
That's right. I'm so sorry.
I've been on the bottom, man, but I'm climbing back up. I just want to say I'm enjoying the show, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to interject that.
Thank you.
Great point. And you were an elder. Mike was an elder, in case anybody don't know. And he has been dragged through the mud, beat down. He's been in his car. He's been abandoned. He's been thrown away. His wife's kids have been told their eyes are going to be picked out. His dad's eyes are going to be picked out any day because the end's coming. They've turned his kids against him, and they threw him away like he was shit.
And he was an elder a long, long time. How long, Michael? 30 years, was it?
15 years.
15 years. Thrown away like a dog.
I've served as coordinator, service overseer, secretary, and it hurts, but I can rise above it just like all of us. Like
Yes.
the young lady tonight, her story. We can community here among the ex-witness community, and I just want everybody to be united. You know, that's one thing bothers me is there's a lot of bickering that goes on. We all got to be united because my goal is to bring Watchtower down.
Yeah.
Because it's a destructive, manipulative organization. If you question anything, you are already marked. It's sad that your self-worth is based on what you are doing for the Watchtower Bible Tract Society.
That's right.
Because
And they'll throw you away.
if you're not towing the line for them and giving everything you have, you're not worth shit. Excuse my language. And that's so sad. When you have elders that approach your children at their places of employment and tell them that they're going to see me getting my eyes plucked out by the buzzards at Armageddon because I don't follow those 8 goofballs in New York, there's a problem.
Yes.
And like I said, I didn't want to disturb the program at all. I don't get to talk much because of my work schedule, but y'all keep up the fine work. With all of us together, we're going to make a change.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we are.
So I'll shut up now and I'll listen.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Our prayers are with you too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that when you think about the fact that Jesus came here trying to give us an example, and when you think about the example that the Jehovah's Witnesses have laid out for everyone, as far as what the Bible says a true Christian is, they don't show that they have authority in any way. They don't show the fruits of the Spirit in any way. They don't show loving kindness towards anyone. There's no mercy. There's no gentleness. There's no self-control even. They're not kind. They're not forgiving. They're I don't know. It's beyond selfish. And I just think, okay, guys,
Yeah.
you know, hello, when are we going to wake up to realize that we're supposed to look and examine and look at these things and make sure that we're in the faith, right? I mean, make sure we're in the faith and make sure that the church is right and that the right things are being spoken of. We're supposed to have the elders and looking and making sure that what's being said is right, and they just have free reign in there to do whatever they want to, and we don't even care that they don't have the fruits of the Holy Spirit going on. We don't care that what the Bible talks about as being what should be the signs of the true believers. They're not even being exhibited, and there's no power. They have no real authority, and yet we follow these guys. When are we gonna see this? Really?
Yeah, they basically, not only do they not follow Jesus' teaching, but they go against his example.
Absolutely.
In so many ways.
Yep.
You know, the lack of love, the lack of humanity, acceptance.
Right. Like, remember when Jesus said that Samaritan, was it the Samaritan that was on the side of the road half dead? And everybody passed him by, and Jesus, it was Jesus's example, but his example was that I don't care who it is on the side of the road. If he's half dead, for God's sake, if you see a man down, you pick him up, you dust him off, you put him on your horse, you take him to the hotel, you pay for the things until he gets better, and you take care of him. It doesn't matter the race, it doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter the religion. It doesn't matter. You take care of your neighbor and you love him as you love yourself.
And isn't that something that they call themselves a charity now?
Oh, boy.
They don't do any charity work except for people who are in the religion. They don't do anything outside the religion. And as soon as you leave, they drop you like a bad habit, just like this last guy, Michael, was saying. How what he went through, just being drunk. You can invest your whole life, time and energy, be an outstanding, Jehovah's Witness, but the second that you decide it's not for you or you start questioning things, you're out. And you're forgotten by your own children, your own family, everyone. They don't look back. They don't think twice.
Yeah.
And there was this propaganda surrounding how, just stay strong and Jehovah's on your side. Don't text him back. Don't even text him back. That is just the epitome of cruelty. And I was in the religion when that came out. And it irked me.
Good.
It did. I thought, no, this is wrong. I really did think that. There was so many occasions like that, especially with their video propaganda. And when the broadcasting started, it all rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh, yeah, and it
Well,
should.
And the whole, and the goal of baptism, it was there, but, I just, if I'm going to commit my life to something, I have to be 100% sure. I have to have my faith be intact 100%, and I couldn't get there. I did try, though, the latter years. When I returned, it was 2009. I started studying, and then I became a publisher again in 2015. And I would come across all these things that just I knew I disagreed with, and then I would raise the subject with the people that I was studying with, or friends at the meeting, or my family, and they would scold me.
Oh, yeah.
I would get scolded for asking those questions.
Oh, yeah. You can be put out for it.
You're taught. Yeah, so you're taught to not ask questions,
Oh, yeah.
and after a certain point, you don't even want to ask questions
No.
because of the way you're treated.
Exactly.
Well, I've always thought, when you come back, here's what I thought. Yeah, when I was a ministerial servant, there was some, when they needed to disfellowship, you wanted to keep the congregation in order. But my problem was always when they came back. I saw people come back crying, sitting outside the hall. I want to come back.
Desperate. Yep.
Yes. And the elders would go, don't talk to him, Dan. And I'd be like, man, he's hurting out there. It's Jehovah's will be done. But then what's interesting to me is the prodigal son said, they've already paid the price, right? I mean, when they went out and did the wrong, the price was paid, they're hurt.
Yep.
The fact that they could even turn back and come back to the meeting is a miracle. So in that miracle, instead of...
That example.
Yes.
Yep.
So instead of embracing what you do, and this is weird, guys, this is strange, but what you do, it takes everything to return. Tell me if I'm wrong. It takes everything to return. You throw your hat in there, you humble yourself, you come back in the hall, and then whack to your heart. They crush you like a rock. They just beat you, and they put you in the back of the hall. Now think about this. I know they say you got to do works that befit repentance. Bullshit. It is punishment, and it's not just punishment for the person. It's so everybody else can say, like Jeff said earlier, some of these halls have glass rooms. They put these people in because he said he saw a video and they said, who's in there? And they said, oh, those are the disfellowshipped. But it's for the congregation too. And to leave a man that's heart is open, an open heart is vulnerable. An open heart is vulnerable. And it's like a man going up to a woman and saying he wanted to date her, right? He puts everything on there and the woman looks at him and says, get away from me, I want nothing to do with you. Well, she breaks his heart. Well, the same thing happens when a person tries to go back to the meeting and they say, you're going to sit in the back of the hall, and you go to the hall, you do this thing for a year, you write them a letter, they say, no, you're not ready, you need more works that befit repentance. Your heart is crushed, plus you're being stared at, you're being talked about. And what I realized is this: when you leave a narcissistic man, when you break his slavery yoke that he has with you, because you're really their slaves, governing body, they don't want you back. They really don't want you back. You're a good-for-nothing slave, and just like a slave owner in black time, you were beaten to death. And these men, we've heard them say it. We'll be glad when they're dead. They're not wishing you back. They're not praying you back. They're wishing you dead.
Isn't that the truth?
It's like the days of slavery.
That's a really good point, too. They don't want you back. They don't attempt to, call you up and see how you're doing, or,
No.
a lot of the times they just wash their hands of you so easily and just turn up their with their lives, and you know, they may say in passing, well, we hope that they return and that they return to Jehovah, and that's that.
I know.
They don't think about the stuff that's
Well, let's just.
causing, and it is.
Well, let's
It's
just.
abuse.
I think it's school narcissism.
Say that
Yeah,
again.
well, going back with there.
I think it's school to make narcissism.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, they create narcissism not only with others, but the whole entire congregation. You know, they take part in abuse, cruelty, and to have a person sit there trying their hardest to come back, you know, meeting after meeting, being shunned, you know, it's abuse is what it is. It's mental
Emotional.
and emotional trauma that
It
they're
sure
causing,
is.
and it's humiliation.
It sure is. I'll tell you what, it breaks a man. It breaks a man. And you know, Leanne, here's
Yeah,
a
and then they just give up.
yeah, and you know what's really crazy is that like you had some support. You had your dad, you had your brother, but a lot of these ones they're very young and they get kicked out of there at a very young age. And we have heard some horror stories, worse than what that little video is all about, where they wouldn't answer the text, answer the call. What if the kid was about ready to commit suicide? What if they were, you know, without food, freezing out there without a coat, without any place to sleep for the night? They don't care. And they let you come in the back. Maybe if you're lucky, you can come in the back of the hall on Sunday, and no one's going to talk to you. Not even your parents. They're going to walk out and look at you, but maybe with an evil stare. They don't care that you didn't have a meal that day. They don't care that you don't have a place to sleep that night. They don't care that you have no support. They don't care. There is something very, very messed up about that.
Well, what they call that in the world is if you had parents like this, they would call them toxic parents. And there's books on it. Toxic parents that don't love their kids unless they reflect their image out exactly like they want. Unless a kid's living the image that the parent wants, the parent rejects them. And even to the point of killing them.
Exactly what it is.
And yeah,
Yes.
and the
And
witness.
there's propaganda videos on that too, where you know the girl comes back, she's in fellowship, she's going to meeting, and the parents are sitting in a different row, glaring at her, and for some reason that's setting a good example.
Oh my
Of being
goodness.
good Jehovah's Witnesses, not talking to their own kids, and this is their propaganda.
Yeah, and the church is,
This is
the organization is like a parent. Dan was pointing out to me. And they act just like this.
oh yes,
You know, and you better do everything that they say, and if you don't do exactly what they say, they're going to shun you and punish you and, you know, leave you out of things, and I don't know, on and on and on, because you don't do exactly what they tell you to do.
Yeah, you know what that reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of a dad that's got one kid, like this. Just say the dad played baseball, right? And then he's got the one son that loves baseball and the other kid that doesn't love baseball. Well, the other kid that doesn't love baseball is a reject, you know, with a narcissist, right? And he's a throwaway. And he's like, well, he just didn't get it. He's just uncoordinated. He's this, he's that, and he's rejected. And believe it or not, I was looking at statistics on this, and they said in America, the toxicity of this, what was it called, Angela, that thing I was saying? It was called toxic ties. Toxic ties. Look that up on the internet. But basically it was saying 700,000 people a year that have spoken out are unloved by their parents because they didn't show up as how their parents perceived them to be. And that is governing body. And that is a toxic parent.
Yes, it sure is.
wow, what a good analogy.
Yes.
And, you know, they talk down to you like your children, too, and they talk in that slow monotone and the simplified, you know, speech, and they're slowing it down, and they say such obvious things that anybody with half a brain can figure out on their own, and, you know, the witnesses, they just eat it up.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
I think it's because they're talking to children.
Yeah, and they become childlike because of that.
That's part of their brainwashing strategy. They want you to think that organization is your family, And that cadence is part of it too.
Yeah, and that goes for my family. My mom, for instance, you know, her congregation as her new family, and that's what she clings to. And it's easy for her to reject us. It might not be easy to accept the idea that we're not in the religion, but it's still easy for her to turn a blind eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with her own grandchildren.
I got a
Yes.
question for you, Leon. Did you want to touch a little bit on Big Pharma? You know, we kind of posted that. Did you have a few points you wanted to bring out on that? Because that really bothers me. I do know some witnesses, and there's one I talked to, and he's like, "Oh my God, yes, I got vaccinated." I'm like, "Really? Like, did they make you?" He goes, "Well, they really suggested it." And I thought, what the hell? Why? Religion would suggest that? Like, and he said, "Oh yeah, all of us are like that." I said, "Well, not everybody." Well, he thought that it was everybody. And as I talk to people, I've heard different things like they're kind of for it. Have you heard something about that? Being you've been in through this pandemic kind of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a lot to say on that. I don't know how much time we have left now, but this is actually part of the reason why I woke up. And, I always suspected shortly after this happened with the pandemic. And there was that 2-week period where everyone just kind of went along with everything. I did. There's a virus. Oh, stay at home. Okay, 2 weeks. Sure, I guess. No problem, right? And then you just see all these signs that they're really intensifying this now. And there's certain things that don't fit. There's certain things that don't make sense. There's things that contradict. But also, they were prepared, okay? They were prepared to go on Zoom right away. They knew exactly what they were going to do. And the way they sold it to everyone was that, Jehovah is backing this, and without his Holy Spirit, we couldn't have gotten this done. But it was so quickly that happened. And they were the first religion to do that. So they switched over to Zoom, and
Wow.
it was prolonged. But there wasn't a meeting that went by where you weren't reminded of the pandemic. There wasn't a meeting that went by where they didn't use that to sort of say, and this is what you were asking me before about false prophecy. I think this kind of ties in.
Okay.
Because there's that classic, I think it's classic now, but the Stephen Lent speech there with the last day, the last hour of the last day of the last day, and how because of COVID, we realized that the end is just around the corner. It's going to happen any second now. And but no, with the whole agenda, I never bought into it from the beginning. So being a Jehovah's Witness kind of made me an outcast, although I did have a small group of friends who were like-minded, and they were questioning things, and, they're baptized witnesses, and they wouldn't take the shot. I didn't want to take the shot. I kept that to myself to some degree in the Kingdom Hall because I didn't feel like I was connected, especially on Zoom. And with all these people talking about how afraid they are and how, we need to keep wearing our masks and we need to follow through with the direction. And a lot of that direction was through the meetings, the annual meetings, the updates. They started doing these updates where the governing body would give this direction, and it was all very much like government propaganda. And, they just sounded like they were representatives for the World Economic Forum or the UN, and that they're all tied in.
Jeez.
But what really got me was their first update, and that was when it was, just the peak of the COVID scare. So March 2020 it would have been, March or April, and so it was update number 4, and they twisted all the stupid ones are the ones that are causing this pandemic.
Oh
Ones
my
who are
God.
out on the streets, they're not social distancing, they're not being shrewd. So they twisted all the context of these scriptures to sell that narrative. Just with COVID, the whole update was on that. And I was just so set off by that. And the coercion didn't stop there. It was continuous, and it worsened over time. It was like a slow burn, because they can't just come out with it all at once in this heavy-duty way. Just like the government couldn't just force the vaccine overnight. People wouldn't accept it. You have to slowly implement all these things and then scare people enough, and then eventually they'll accept the narrative. And people did, except for, a lot of people who are like me, who had these questions. And I would go to my friends who were like-minded, and even they would say, oh, leave it in Jehovah's hands. Maybe we'll write the letter to the governing body, see what the deal is. Because I just thought they were infiltrated. I thought, you know what, if they are the truth, they're not the truth anymore. They're taken over by some government entities, for sure. And then, it was amazing because after I left, there were so many things that led to me waking up. But after I left, I found out about their affiliation with the UN and how they were NGO members for 10 years. And I just thought, well, no surprise there. They probably still are members because they're pushing that agenda even more now than ever.
Wow.
And it's easy to remove your name from a public list and say, oh, we're not partners anymore. They lie anyway. They've been lying.
Did they ever set up any of your parking lots? Did they ever set up any of the parking lots here in Canada as vaccination stations?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I heard about the mobile vaccine clinics, I was just flabbergasted, and I had to look into that and research it on my own to verify, as I do with a lot of things. And sure enough, there was some Canadian listings there, but not as many as the States. So I heard of one instance, I guess it was in California, so I phoned about it and I inquired, and sure enough, the Watchtower was partnered up with the vaccine manufacturers to have mobile clinics in parking lots. Do you know about that famous assembly center in Denmark?
Yeah.
It's shaped like the Illuminati symbol and the top pyramid.
I heard about it.
The one eye. So they basically converted that into vaccine clinics throughout.
He did.
Predominant. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Autumn. I don't mean to take up too much time, but I just wanted to say that I also phoned this health department in California in Riverside and confirmed that they did indeed set up vaccination sites in the parking lot of the Kingdom Hall, and I asked if they were getting paid for doing so, and she said no, that they contacted a lot of different businesses and organizations to see if they could use their facilities for a quick vaccination clinic for a day or two, and they agreed to it.
Gotcha.
Right.
Wow.
So they did agree to it. However, that transcended the fact that they were partnered in with the manufacturers. That really struck us.
I haven't heard of that. Where did you learn this?
When I was making phone calls and inquiring, I was talking to public health officials and just getting that whole story straight because I really needed to know.
Right. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. So you talked to like Pfizer officials?
I've phoned Pfizer. I've talked to Moderna, and as far as the Watchtower connection goes with investments, the proof is in the pudding. There is word of documentation through certain trust funds where if you dig deep just with that and you unravel that, you come across a lot. But it is pretty apparent that they have pharmaceutical investments. Just with how they advertise and they push it and coerce. And
I never thought about it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say you had made a great point when you said, like, they so quickly jumped on Zoom after, like, once the pandemic was announced. And I'm like, wow, I never really considered that because in the very beginning, I was like, okay, what's going on? I wasn't scared out of my mind like other people were, but I just was like, wow, like, they really had it all together, had Zoom ready and everything, must be God's spirit. But now I think, I'm sure you're familiar with Event 201 in New York.
Yeah. So in October. Yep. Yeah. And they're tied in with that. They're aware. They're aware ahead of time.
Yep.
And there was that magazine that they released in November of 2019, and the title was "Do You Feel Safe and Secure?" I believe that's what the title was, and they had a picture of these people wearing masks.
No way.
And that would have been shortly after Event 201, if not right after.
That is ridiculous. And see what the average witness is going to think is, oh my goodness, they must have God's spirit because they knew, they predicted this. And really, it's just, no one ever considers, well, what if they're in on it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and it goes so much deeper as far as the plan around.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even the whole Russia thing, that's why they label it the King of the North. Because, they know that America and Russia have had these issues for years, and they're just using it as an opportunity to look like the chosen one.
Exactly. And they play into it, and they do it right from the beginning. They know ahead of time. They're prepared. And they have everyone duped.
Yep.
Yep.
As soon as they started pushing the jab, I started doing more research, and I came across, Jim Jones.
The similarities, right?
Good point.
The Kool-Aid.
And the whole Watchtower about, if we tell you to do something that doesn't seem logical from a human standpoint, you should do it anyway.
Well, they were kind of alluding to that, though, early on. Just even in the last couple of years, you would hear that sort of rhetoric at the Kingdom Halls, and you would hear it from fellow Jehovah's Witnesses that, the governing body, we can't question them if they ask us to go a certain direction. If we have to pack our bags in the middle of the night and, leave our homes and we're directed to do something, it doesn't feel right at the time, we just have to do it no matter what. So that was the going belief. So I think they used that, that dedication that people have, of course, to have them follow along without any question. And
I have a friend here that got vaccinated. We're not really friends anymore, but she had made a comment to me. She said if the governing body told her to eat dirt, she would because they're smarter than her.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, even my friend who was against vaccines, doesn't vaccinate her children, she told me if the governing body says we got to take the shot, at the end of the day, Leanne, it's just a shot. I mean, we'll be resurrected. I mean, if it makes our lives more comfortable, we got to follow along. And I would hear things like that, or because they did an announcement where they said there's no blood in the vaccine. There's no blood. It's safe. It doesn't go against our blood policy, therefore it's safe. When it was, still
their current blood policy.
Something foreign.
Did you hear about the letter that encourages doctors and nurses to not give blood in their daily work that was issued by the Watchtower?
known?
Not blood in their daily work. I don't know
You
if I
like part of
can.
their job, like not get blood transfusions?
Right, and a nurse would have to hang the blood bag and put the needle in for any number of patients daily, and those patients are not witnesses. They're just regular patients, what witnesses would say worldly people, but if it's a witness and she's also a nurse or a doctor, she's not supposed to do that now, according to a Watchtower letter, and I just about fell off my chair because they're trying to on one of the most powerful and brilliant frats in the world, the medical frat.
I think I might have heard that. Yeah, they're really.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey guys, it's Constance. I was just gonna say, yeah, there was no blood in the vaccinations, but there's aborted baby fetal cells in there.
Oh,
That's right. That's
There's
right.
a lot of religious exceptions that are
Good.
acceptable. You know, there are people who apply for their religious exemptions based on that, and they're awarded that. But the witnesses are not encouraged. You know, if they're uncomfortable with that choice, to try and seek a medical exemption. Those options
Not
are
everyone is approved for the medical exemption. Some are being
That's
denied.
true. It's very hard to get approved. Very hard.
Wow.
But you know, if you know your rights, bodily autonomy, you know, as these people are going against the law. So when they say we support Romans 13 and the secular authorities and we must obey, but those authorities are going against the law. They're going against human rights. They're going against the Charter, Bill of Rights. Right. People should have the right to choose when it comes to medical intervention of any kind. And
I mean,
the hypocrisy with how they used to have Watchtower studies, publications that frown upon sharing health information, whether it's natural or vitamins, supplements. You know, let's try and keep that under wraps. Don't try and encourage people to take certain supplements. But then in their publications, it's very much driven propaganda as far as, you know, making medications the more prominent number one solution, especially with medical health. Yeah, but they're going against their own standards when they're trying to push the vaccine, because it is a medical, you know, intervention. The
Yeah.
mask is a medical device, you know, in proper terminology. So they're pushing all of that, and it's going against their own standards of, you know, being neutral when it comes to medical choice.
good point.
Yep, and so many witnesses are making excuses for the governing body saying it's not political. It's basically that if you have an opinion against the vaccine, you're not being neutral. But if you're for it, you're being neutral.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
and if you're against it, you're going to cause division and stumble people within the congregation.
Oh, man.
And there's even those elders' letters that came out, right? And they were instructed. They were instructed to silence people who had opinions that did not go along with that narrative.
Wow.
So they marked just for expressing their opinion.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I was.
And you can support it all day.
Well, you can support it all day. It's like when I was going to the Zoom meetings and I entered in a breakout room one day, and I voiced my opinion. All I said was, well, I'm not going to take the shot. Everybody was talking about, oh, how great the vaccine is going to be rolled out soon. We can all go back to normal. We can all live our lives again. You know, we can protect ourselves. Everybody was just couldn't wait. And I just felt, you know, I've been holding this in for a while. I'm going to say something. And just, you know, just a simple comment. Well, you know, I'm not going to take the shot, and here's why. And then just a simple little breakdown as to why. I don't trust it. Hasn't been out long enough. I'm choosing not to take it, but that's just me. So, all in all, that's all I said. Oh, okay. And then, you know, the subject eventually judicial meeting with me. So like it was an emergency. He goes, it's very imperative we sit down as soon as possible.
Wow.
So would you be available for tomorrow? I said, oh, what's this about? And he goes, well, it's just regarding, some comments that were made, and we just want to make sure that, there's no division and things like that. That's an opinion. Yeah, so
Wow.
I expressed it, and I had a judicial meeting scheduled, and they said, if you have opinions like that, just try and, keep it to yourself, and because it could cause someone to stumble. And they said, you do believe that there's a political aspect with this, right? And we do want to remain neutral. And I would say, well, yeah, it is political. And then they would say, well, there you go. So we shouldn't talk about it. But everybody's talking about it. At the time, everybody was talking about it.
And they talk about
The
it.
thing is, it's okay to say it's a good thing. It's okay to say, we're on board. But not the other way around. And now with these elders' letters coming in saying that if you have an opposing opinion about the jab in general, you can't express yourself. You
Wow.
can be marked, and maybe futuristically disfellowship.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't care about the people that might be stumbled when they're encouraging it.
I was
screw them.
stumbled. I was
Right,
stumbled.
all were stumbled. All of us were. Yep.
Yep. And, elders researching. Yeah.
Let me check with Rick on the time, guys. Let me just see how we're doing. We got a show. I think Delon is coming on after, so we just want to make sure. Rick, are you at the helm there?
Yeah, I'm here, right, Dan. If you can hear me, we'll give you we get about probably 10 minutes, and then we're going to go to the next program.
You got it, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Well, guys, it's it's. I just want to say this. It's been a great show, and
That if you have an opinion about
We can't
I'm
hear.
not sure who that was.
Me neither. Are you there? Somebody's trying to speak and it sounds echoey, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Huh.
That wasn't me, but anyway, I just want to point out there was a monumental occurrence that basically brought my crossroads to an end, because in 2020, during that time, I had a lot of cognitive dissonance. I was at a crossroads. I was being irked. I had a lot of things that were just about to unravel. And when I discovered the tax exemption with 501c3, I discovered that the Watchtower Society are actually receiving government grants because of their new charitable status. That was the day where I started to freely research all the forbidden apostate material, where I was afraid to go down that path before. I really tried trusting. I really tried holding on and taking the advice from the people who were leave it in Jehovah's hands, see how long this lasts. But once I discovered some monumental truth, there was no going back, and so much has unraveled since then, right down to every single doctrine that they have, all the false prophecies, the treatment of people, even who are still in. You can be marked just for a silly little thing, disfellowshipped for countless, hundreds of different things you can get disfellowshipped for. And those children who sign their lives over, and how that
Yeah.
to be a false religion.
And I called, and
Who is this?
Sorry?
I don't know if I was interrupting somebody.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I just loved her analogy of the magnets early on in the conversation, but I didn't want to interrupt the show anymore. You look at truth versus false, and then you stop and look at intuition. So many of us, just looking at the Watchtower alone, and especially when you're born in as a child, that intuition gets smothered and a lot of times. For it to resurface in you and to be able to feel, you may not know what's wrong, but you know something's wrong. And that's what's happened to me. That's what happened to a lot of us, is you know something's not right. It seems like we're all different ages when we discover this. But we know something's not right. We just can't put our finger on it. And that's when it goes into self-discovery. It goes into that mode that energy of awareness is pulling you to that direction, like the magnet, to expose what is wrong. It's, because we're taught if you have doubts, it's Satan. If you have impure thoughts, it's Satan. Anyways.
No, that's a great point. Thanks for confirming that with me, too. Because there's a little bit of insecurity that comes with not being able to put my finger on it. But the fact that you say that, it just, it helps me realize that it is more or less about intuition and your spirit saying that something is wrong. Essentially that's what cognitive dissonance is, and it can lead to you waking up. But if you sit there and you fester in it and you suppress those doubts year after year, God forbid, it's going to hurt you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Thank you so much
Well
for
said.
taking your time to share with us, because it inspires us to, as we're on our journey of still learning. We're maybe out, but we're still on this journey. And so thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you too. Like, I was listening in, and this gentleman was just saying, this is, what he was saying and you're saying, this is just classic cult tactics, to brainwash and control you and keep you in, and that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. It's a cult, and I flat out, cult.
Yeah.
People need to realize that.
Yeah, they deny freedom of thought, and now they're
Yes.
freedom of speech.
Yes.
I mean, it just doesn't end with the control grid and how powerful it is.
Oh, yeah.
But also
Very
how
powerful.
it is. But once
But
you do that,
the individual only gives them power. If you give them power, they got power over you. You don't give them power.
Good point.
That's what people need to figure out that are in it.
That's right.
the witnesses
Good thought.
are actually they're handing their power over to the governing body. When they become baptized, they're handing their power over to somebody else.
And that's it. You don't hand your power over to any man on this earth.
Amen.
Anybody.
That's right.
Yep.
And I know you guys have heard me say this before on the show, but to me, it's why it's so important when you leave the Watchtower, when you finally realize that truth, take back your power, take back your identity, because your identity and your power were stolen from you one way or the other. Your identity was
Yes.
one of, who are you? I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not Daniel. I'm not Rebecca. I'm not John. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You see what I'm saying? Your
Yeah.
identity is so wrapped into that. They rob you of that. So when you wake up, if a person can realize that and reclaim their power, take back their identity, you will heal that much more faster than not recognizing what you've actually been through.
And work on getting your cognitive skills back, your critical thinking
Excellent.
skills. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And it's true, the healing process.
My name is
my slave name and my pagan name.
Hey, Rick, did you want to make a few comments? Did you want to say a few things to Leanne?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that we really appreciate Leanne coming in here tonight. I have to tell you that I'm watching the control panel here, and boy, we've got lots of people calling in. We have got the retention rate. Like I always say, we look for the retention rate, and that would be people who came in the beginning, they're here till the end. So, Leanne, you got a great retention rate tonight. People really wanted to hear what you had to say, so I think that's a good thing, yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Rick. I really love your show, and I avidly watch your videos as well as Life After Religion, Dan and Angela. You guys are really amazing.
Well, thank
Hey,
you.
thank you,
Thank you
Leanne.
for coming on the show. And I just, you did a really great job. We're really proud of you. We're glad you're looking at this activism, that you have a voice, that you care about people. And it means so much to us. I mean, just you coming on tonight, being out so fresh and hitting the ground shows that, this is a miracle. And here's what I want to say in the final closing words. If you are tired of a toxic parent like Watchtower, which is abusive, mind control, cut the ties. And here's what the Bible version says. Get out of Babylon the Great. And I'm going to say one more thing. Babylon the Great, they always said that Armageddon, get out before Armageddon. I'm going to tell you what, get out now, because you're going to suffer now. People are being told to vaccinate up. That's a personal choice. They're fleecing them. They're shaking them up and down. They're taking their money. If you don't want toxic parents, and I'm saying this to the people on YouTube, on the phone lines, if you're tired of toxicity, if you're tired of wolves in sheep clothing, because when you pull back their little taglines, Jehovahs says, we're the governing body. When you take away their covering, what you have is narcissistic, toxic, borderline personalities that are aimed to hurt you. You don't have to hurt anymore. And so there's life after this. There's life after all this. Want to say a final word, Angela?
Well, just that if you guys want to learn a little bit more about our guest tonight, don't forget you can go to our YouTube channel, L.A. Poley 1980, L-A-P-O-L-E-Y 1980. You can also go on.
Sorry to interrupt you, Angela. There's no 1980 in there. It's actually just abbreviated L.A. and then it's Poley, P-O-L-E-Y. There's no 1980. I know
weird.
I said that at one time.
Oh, you
Okay.
did.
Okay.
I said it at one time, and I corrected myself.
Okay.
But amen to what you said, Dan. Amen to what you said.
Okay, and
That's
thank
exactly it there.
Yeah, thank you everyone who commented. I've got to say this. This was what makes the show. Rick says every show, man, come in, talk, say something, let people know you're there. We love you.
Yes,
and
we
your
do.
voice is important. Every voice that came in tonight touches another person's soul. It really does. And we're setting people free, including ourselves.
That's right. And you guys, you can go on Life After Religion channel as well. That's Dan and I's channel. And you can get lots of good videos that will help uplift you and make you stronger. So you can go there too, okay?
Amazing.
Hey, Dan.
Yep.
Yeah, hey, let's mention those, the Google reviews.
Yeah. Hey, Rick,
I
one
went
second.
earlier
Okay.
tonight.
Yeah, Rick, just one, yes. Google reviews. This is a really good thing, guys. Jeff has brought it up. It's amazing. It takes 1 second. You type in your Kingdom Hall. You say, hey, here's my Kingdom Hall. It'll say, leave a review. And this is Google. And so it takes 5 minutes. You can do it in the evening, and it feels good. It's like Rick always says, activism. It feels good when you help somebody. When you put that testimony down, I did one the other day. And when I put that testimony down, I felt good. And if you got a good one, leave a good one. But if you don't, most of us don't. But, leave your testimony. But, hey, we got another show coming on, guys. DeLon's coming on, and we're looking forward to a show. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, everyone who came in tonight. Thank you, Rick.
everyone.
Thank
we
you.
love you.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing. I just want to second what Dan said about, get out now and just save yourself. It says in 1 Corinthians 2 and 15, I believe, to test information, to look things up
That's right.
Research,
Be like the
research,
Bereans. Be like the Bereans, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Good
Mwah.
night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.